All right, good night and welcome back to the show. And normally I host the show on Mondays. It's Tuesday, and it kind of slipped me because of the holiday mode. But anyway, which way I decided that I'll still um, do a quick live tonight. And as you know, these lives for this type of show lasts for about half an hour, and it's simply for me to share some of the things that are on my mind in terms of Belize and where we're going, and to kind of get the younger people involved in some of these things to start to open their minds into some of the things that are happening around us, so that they know and they can start doing some research on them. One of the things to start out with that hits me when it comes particularly to issues in Belize is looking at some of the industries we have, and I started asking, like, why haven't we propelled yet into a kind of an industrial age? And I sometimes like to think that we're there, but the truth is that we're not there yet, right? We do have, like somebody rightfully mentioned in one of the previous shows that were at episode 3, they mentioned that, oh, but we have Spanish lookout, right? But how many of our young people know about the history of Spanish lookout? And I sat down and I thought about it, and, like, you know what? A lot of people don't know the history of Spanish lookout, and the information, or for the most part, the information is out there. There was also a piece on for the issue of the communal land, right? And that will always be coming up. And I know that Mr. Miss gave a report saying that, hey, you know what? Our case is just like the Mennonite case, where we want our communal land because we want to work our land for our people, which is fine, right? But I still think that there will have to be some sort of planning in terms of the Mennonite community. When they came in, there was an agreement with the government. And when we look back at the agreement now, we can see that, you know what, the agreement was probably a little too much, but we have to understand that that agreement was in those times. Whether it has to be restructured, again, that's a different story, right? But the contribution to our economy was in terms of industries. And we looked at having just a blank piece of land for a while to having a very productive land, and in different sectors. So what I kind of, it dawned on me that a lot of people just don't know where the information is. And so I say, all right, you know what, let me share some of the stuff that I was looking at over the course of the week and the weekend. Emancipation Day yesterday, I still have to talk about that holiday because that's a new holiday added in, called Emancipation Day, which of course makes a lot of sense when it comes to freedom, right? But then you ask yourself, how free are we today, when we do look at it as we're just in another form of slavery? But that's a different topic, right? But Spanish lookout, there is and let me see if I can get this on the screen. There is a guy who has a YouTube channel. It's Delmer Penner, and I guess he's from Spanish lookout. Pretty old YouTube channel. He has a lot of content though, and he does give some history of Spanish lookout. And so this is just one of those videos that he did.
Mind the colonial leaders who did some research on the possibility of moving from Mexico to British Honduras.
Right. So a lot of great history is highlighted on his YouTube channel. So I'm just urging you to go out there, watch these. It's half an hour for this video. There's a 2-part for this video, part 1 and part 2, in terms of the history of Spanish lookout, and he goes into details and tells you about the formation and some of the work they're doing. And I'm like, man, these people really came here with a mission, and I wish that my Belizean people could also get together and get on a mission of having us feed ourselves here at Belize and grow our own food and so forth. So they already headed this thing, so they know what they're doing. And so we don't have to go and reinvent the wheel. We don't have to go and start to learn about all these things. And he was actually showing some of the great industrial machines that they have back there, and I'm like, why can't we do this in other parts of our country? This was, I think, in 1958 where the agreement was signed. And so it's been a while. It means then that we have all of this tool that we can learn from and we can use for our particular group. So go check it out. I mean, Delmer Penner, he has a nice YouTube channel. He gives some history of Spanish Account. If you're looking into some of the Mennonite traditions and so forth, he gives a lot of information there that we can use. And, tons of information. It's just a matter of getting there and just looking at a video. I am a person that prefer to look at a video than read, right? I don't really like the reading thing, but videos are interesting and they're well put together. So go check it out. A little bit of history on Spanish Account. I got caught up in the first 2 minutes of this thing, and I just decided I'd watch everything, and I watched part 2 also. And I was like, yo, deep history, things I never know, right? And of course, this is definitely an idea for the other groups who are farming and strengthening up, to create some history, create some video history for your particular group. All the young people who are into this technology thing, help them create the history. Sit down, grandpa and grandma, and say, man, tell me about something. Tell me what happened back in days so that I can also share it with my group, right? So be sure to get up, share that history, let people know about some of the things that are going on with your particular group and the Garifuna people, the Maya people, the Chinese group, right? The East Indian group. Everybody should get up and share some history about their group. We have all the technology here now. Let's use it. Touching on technology, and I have to kind of bring it in all the time. And I still think that there has to be a what I call a negotiation on where internet distribution goes, and I spoke about this again on one of my other segments, I guess some months back. I think I saw a report where I think San Felipe is getting internet now from the cable company, and I say, kudos to the cable company for doing that, pushing internet into that area. And I'm thinking that why not our big government-owned internet service provider? Why are they not doing that? Or why isn't it an urgency given the state that we're in terms of this whole pandemic, right? Or pandemic, whatever it is. But we have a lot of information out there now that people are reading. And of course, information empowers you, and it allows you to make your own decision without having people force decision on you, right? Because then you're doing your research, and then it's just a matter of finding credible information out there, right? And credible information and real information and truthful information can come from a lot of different places, right? So, but my point is, why haven't it become something that the government wants to say, let me push internet all the way back to Santa Teresa. Let me get internet in Midway. Let me get internet in Conejo, right? Let me get internet in some of these villages that are all the way back in Orangewock or in Corozal. I think there has to be some sort of demand, knowing that we own the company. There has to be some sort of demand saying, you know what, we need this back here. School is looking to start again, and there is still uncertainty as to whether we'll be online or we'll do the paper-based thing. And I think that even some schools need to now prioritize and say, we want an extended network so that our kids can now have their device, whether it be that they're on campus or off campus. We want that network service, and so we have to start demanding those things. So it's no longer about having a computer lab or 2 computer lab and everybody try to get access to that. It is now, what do we do, because it's here, what do we do with the devices as we take them into schools and we continue the learning process, and how do we enhance on that learning process for our kids, right? So that is where we have to look. So looking back at the industrial stuff that I was speaking about, I also stumbled on a nice series, and let me bring that up on screen, with this guy, Steve Odell, and he did a part on Caribbean chicken some years back, and he goes into details about the entire process, all the machineries, that are being used, and so forth. So very nice video. Again, I look at the views and I say 480 views. Why aren't more people watching this thing?
Corporation. These chicks will reproduce at the Caribbean Chicken Breeder Farm, and their offspring will become the Caribbean chicken that will feed the nation of Belize.
Right? So he's talking about how food is produced here in Belize, and our Belizean people who are not watching this, I showed somebody this study and they were like, "Wow, that nice process. I never know they do all that, the whole chicken production thing." And I'm like, yeah, all the information out there, but we know to watch it. So again, do check out this guy's YouTube channel, right? And he goes through the whole process for Caribbean chicken. So Caribbean chicken has a well-developed, I call it advertisement here, but he showed the whole chicken production cycle and also the ice cream, right? My daughter saw let me see if I could find it. The one with the two boys there, two little boys milking the cow for creation of ice cream, right? And she was surprised as to where the milk come from. And so do make sure that the kids also see this, right? So that they know what the process is. Yeah, this was the one with the two little boys.
Just to be boys, have some fun, and maybe taste the milk.
Right? But don't do that. But so it was an interesting process to see. But I feel like a lot of us don't watch it, and so I'm encouraging you to, start looking at some of these things that are created by Belizeans, created for Belize, and he shows again some of the industrial machinery that are used in most of these processes, and I'm like, man, why can't we do that here? And I remember we had a slaughter plant up in the dump area for Toledo. And I don't know what happened to the whole slaughtering equipment and so forth, but I do know that, that was there. That was also a state-of-the-art equipment for us to use, and that just disappeared. And again, nobody could say what happened to it. We're just saying, all right, yeah, that made the money made to spend then, but it gone. No, we have to start being more responsible and being more be more accountable, have our people be more accountable as to what happens, because these things are expensive. But takes me back to the point where we look at the whole industry and the whole Spanish lookout scenario, right? And we say, all right,
is in the business of making your engine new again. They are the best engine rebuilding machine shop in Belize.
Right? And when we look at all of that happening and we say, like, man, these people really, really are smart, right? But we're not capitalizing on it, that these things are here. And we can also use more of those. A machining shop, you want to deal with anything with your machine, you take your machine to Spanish lookout, right? So imagine somebody from Orange Walk or somebody from Stan Creek decide that they want to also rebuild machine. That's not a bad idea, and you could have different segments in the country that does that, right? We have a lot of land in different areas. I know the situation came up where they say, all right, but 450 people own 80% of the land of Belize. That is something that has to be revisited. We have to look at the whole tax thing and say, but if there are 450 people who own most of the land, that means we collect some good tax money, right? Which, of course, we know is not the case. But we need to ensure that we're holding these people accountable, right? But the machining process, the industrial process, I keep saying that we should be there. We should have more small industries for our country. I know here in Toledo we have the cassava group. There's a person doing cassava bread processing, and they started doing cassava flour, which is a good idea, but it has to be that they come together and make it work. I think for an individual alone, it is difficult to carry on some of these projects. I think you'll take a strain financially, and so if you can do it as a group, like the Caribbean chicken one that I was watching, I think it's 120 farmers, and they all own the Caribbean chicken industry. Let me call it that, the business. So it's a kind of a cooperative where they own whatever they're working on. So there's no one owner they can point to and say that, oh, that man owns that industry. No, it's owned by a group, it's owned by a cooperative. But we have to start to develop that thinking of cooperative thinking. And of course, then we have to be trustworthy and get trustworthy people to work for us, right? So again, looking at that, then we can say, all right, good. of all of this, we could look on how we are doing and we start strategize, right? Or we start creating a plan for the next 5 years, create a plan for the next 10 years. We know we have the yellow ginger industry here in Toledo also, and there's a lot of other little cash crop that can be grown, right? And again, I'm just saying this to tell you that the information is right here in Belize. We don't have to go far. We don't have to bring in no expert from outside. We have these people doing this right here. And just to know that Mr. What's his name? Mr. Steve Odell did this. I think it was with Pastor Wade some years back, and nobody mentioned it. We didn't see it. I didn't see it in any school. I'm like, oh, these are some things we have to start showing in school, right? And the one with the Spanish lookout and this guy Delmer Penner doesn't have a high amount of subscriber, but the content is relevant to Belize. So how do we get our young people to start looking at these content, looking at the educational content, apart from looking at TikTok and give millions of views on TikTok, right? But how do we get them to see these and start planning for their future? I think that's the aim, right? Another thing that came up over the course of the weekend that I thought about, and it came in form of an industry, right? And this has to do with more Jamaica and the fight against the U.S. mining company, and that's a bauxite company, bauxite mining company. And what they were doing is that bauxite is used to make aluminum, right? And so a lot of large company comes into Jamaica and they start mining this bauxite and exploiting it, and they say, all right, they're complying with all the environmental aspects and so forth. And I'm kind of relating this now to what happens to us here in Belize, but there wasn't no kind of a health compliance, and so the government, although they own 51% of the company, they were still kind of exploiting some areas. And so the people got up and they kind of boxed in an area that, or preserved an area which was key to Jamaica. And Jamaica is not a large block of land, it's kind of like Belize. So that was key to survival and the whole water system in Jamaica. But if you, and I'm saying this to say that if you allow politicians, or you allow large business people from outside to come into your country and exploit something that you can't replace, then you're not planning for your future, right? You're definitely running into issues. And I'm reminded of the oil industry, and where we stopped the offshore drilling, the offshore exploration of oil, and we also allowed the exploration of oil in some areas that we deemed as sensitive areas, and so we had to make them protected areas. But to some extent we still allowed it, but I'm happy that we stopped most of it in time. But if there will be a repeat of such situation, I think there will in the near future, is given the economic times that we're in, the government of the day will want to ensure that they're getting in some of that foreign exchange, and so they'll do it at all costs, right? And just to tie into that, and we look at oil and our gas prices right now. If the prices of gas continue to go up, then it means the price of food will also go up. I mean, somebody told me today, I couldn't believe it. They said the price of bread going up, right? But I said, yeah, the price of everything went up. If the minute you have that fuel price go up, everything else will go up, because somebody has to pay for the transportation, right? So a lot of great videos. This one from Jamaica. This is some Vice News. Sometimes I think Vice gets carried away with some of the thing. I know they did a segment on Belize and the whole gang thing. The idea was a 12-minute segment. It's also on YouTube. That I think kind of painted Belize as a gang nation, as particularly Belize City as a gang nation, which might and might not be the case, right? I think because of our population, again, everybody knows everyone, and I think we just allow some of these criminals to kind of hack our area and get away with some stuff, right? So we can look at that and we can say, here, we need some positive promotion of what we're doing here in Belize, but we also need people who are able to stand up and believe in certain things that they know are right for the country, right? And that is key. Good. All right. Ms. Jones says schools need to implement skill-based subject instead too much theory. Yeah, I mean, for a while back, they were looking at um, schools in terms of trade, and which is where the IT vets come in, right? But I think that when IT vets started, and this is like everything that happens in Belize, when IT vets started, they started with a bang, and I said, all right, good, they're bringing back agriculture, they're bringing back trades, which is definitely needed in our society. And for some reason, that ended up downhill. I mean, Toledo had, and probably still have, I'm not sure, I haven't been there for a while, but we had one of the best IT vet facilities for the entire country. But now we're not hearing anything from IT vet, and we're not hearing any trade being offered in some of these schools, and it's kind of hurting us, because now more than ever we need trade people. We need people who are able to work the land. We need people who are able to work with their hands to create, right? So definitely we do need to look back at that. I think there needs to be a bigger investment in terms of education for our society. There was a thing the other day, and I was happy to see it, where they had some young people. I'm not familiar with the program. They had some young people as a part of. They were carrying them through the parliamentary process, and kudos to them. It gave them a chance to get a feel of how government would operate, and all of this house talk that normally happens. The whole well, for me, the house talk that happens in Belize is more entertainment than anything, because we get to see our ministers scream at each other and call each other names. So, but at least they got a chance to take the young people through the process, just so that they know how it works. And so kudos to them for doing that. I think we need more of that, because a lot of these things are not taught in school. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, but why in Belize they don't teach you basic law, but they expect you to know the law, right? And I think these are some of the things that needs to be taught in school. Why don't they teach you about money, right? And you're expected to manage money when you get into the real world. And that is true, and there are programs that comes in once a year, once in a while, and they do these things, but it needs to be incorporated into the whole curriculum itself, so that we can start teaching these kids how to manage money, right? All right, bread, flour gone up. I expected, right? All of these goods, all the price of goods will definitely go up in Belize. Look for it over the next couple of weeks. There will be a rise in prices, although we lost our 10%, and people lost jobs and so forth. I mean, things will get harder for everybody, right? We just have to try to keep positive. Remember that we here in Belize, we have the luxury of having the greenery around us that we can use, and so we have to use that some more. And I was telling somebody the idea, when it comes to respiratory diseases, one of the things that we lose focus on is that we have that salt air. When you go and they want to break that mucus down in your body, they take the saline solution and they spray it in your nose, and that brings down the cold. We have the sea right there, and so we're not using that. There is studies linked to the use of vitamin D in order to fight off respiratory diseases also, and vitamin D is from the sun. So get out there, get some sun, get some of that vitamin D, so that you could live a little healthier lifestyle. The main thing right now is how do you build up your immunity, build up your immune system, so that you can fight any disease that comes, right? Or so that you're ready for whatever comes, because apparently there's a lot of unknown at this moment, right? And so we want to make sure that we're ready for whatever there is. I know there is the whole vaccination drive right now to get things back and going. We want that. They're trying to ensure that everybody's vaccinated, but we're confused. I'm one of those confused ones, and I'll tell you, I don't want to touch this topic tonight, but I'll mention it. With the amount of information out there, and the amount of data, and the amount of lies being told, and the amount of data being hidden, you get confused. You don't know what to do, right? They tell you one time this to work, and then they don't work, and then you try something else, and then we start to mimic other countries, and we see other countries, they take lick. Somebody said the smaller countries now can't borrow nothing, while the big countries, they just squander money. So where is the balance in terms of treating all humans the same? I guess that doesn't exist for the big money man, right? And who made Bill Gates a doctor all of a sudden? I don't know, what he's a spokesperson when it comes to the whole COVID thing, right? But I won't go down that road tonight. All right, Carl. Okay, our politician, they are detached from reality. I can agree with that. I think there's a detachment when it comes to politicians and reality, right? Um, and we are now in the fourth industrial revolution. Yeah. So we must prepare our young people, not only for Belize but for the global competitive environment, which is true. Which is true, right? We need to start preparing our young people to be able to compete internationally, step up on that international market, make sure we can get some products out from here. And you know that there's a lot of different markets out there we can tap into. I mean, somebody showed me the price of lobster the other day in the US, and I like, but we have all of that here, but we don't capitalize by it. There is this blue economy stuff that is happening in Belize. I'm still trying to figure all the whole blue economy stuff out and how do we capitalize. And I'm thinking some years back, somebody was doing sea cucumber, and they were exporting sea cucumber, and it came out that it was illegal or something like that. I have to follow up on that story again, but how do we encourage our Belizeans in particular, to take advantage of some of the things that we have without having to bring in that foreign man, exploit what we have and say, oh, we're okay, and there's nothing that is left for us, right? So how do we encourage them to do that? How do we keep our raw materials here? And I'm saying that because the lagwood, Belize import lagwood now. Belize import hardwood, right? But we still see hundreds of trees being cut down and dragged out and sent off on a ship to make some furniture that we'll buy back and import back into Belize, And I said it last time, Belize is in a weird position right now where we're importing in water. All that have to stop, right? So we do have a lot of work, but again, our job, when I say our job as the adults, is to ensure that we're telling the young people some of these things so that they know, so that they can start thinking about it. Because when I teach at the high school, a lot of times the kids don't ask this question, they don't ask things like these. So we have to make sure we mention it at some point, even if it's the opening of something, right? Just so that we can start getting those little minds working, right? Because we want that once everybody's working together for the common good of Belize, then things could get better. Good? All right. I think I check now, but I'll stop there for tonight. Again, I appreciate the comments coming in, from Carl, Miss Joan. You know what? I appreciate the comments. I appreciate when you guys are here. I like doing live so that I can answer some things as we go along too, and it gives me a chance. I don't have to fool with the edits, right? So it's there. But you guys, do have a nice night. Have a great week. Look out for some of these new happenings over the course of next couple of weeks in terms of Belize and the whole school starting and readjusting, and of course try to de-stress, right? Try to de-stress. Don't take in and don't read too much that it becomes stressful. Sometimes I think, and I like to tell the young people this, take time off from the stuff that you are overdoing, right? And TikTok and the whole rest of the viral stuff. Take time off from it and do something. Get outside, do something outside, get some sun. Right? So you guys have a great night and see you next week Monday.